Great, thank you. So actually, I won't be talking about going public. This is actually something new. So this Sunday, I was hosting a dinner with a few friends, and they brought a friend, and that friend was head of product development for AI for one of the largest tech businesses in the world. And his mission is to get AI into the world. And I asked him two questions. I asked him question number one is, and I deliberately asked him this, is this a real thing? Or is this one of those things that will be very accurate, that will be very current now, and in a few years' time we'll forget about it? He nearly killed me. But it was in my house, it was all fine. The other question I asked him is, so what should my kids do so that they don't get disintermediated by AI? And that was a really interesting answer. So he said, AI can do almost everything. It predicts every word that's going to say using these huge language models that you incorporate in it. It can talk in your language. It can talk in language of your company. But there is that 1% of innovation, 1% of new thing that AI will never be able to do. And that 1% is actually that innovation that we at the London Stock Exchange are thinking a lot. How do we support that 1% of innovation to get funded? And I'm going to talk about that today. And this is deliberately provocative title, What Are My Shares Worth? Because you'll see in a second why we talk about it, and why we talk about it in a context of the London Stock Exchange. So I said we will not talk about public markets, except one thing. You have heard a lot of bad stories about public markets, especially about London. If you read London press, you would think that's it, London Stock Exchange, there's no reason for its existence. So can you just read this for 30 seconds, maybe less because my time is going. Just read these titles. These are all titles from recent recent headlines from the websites and news. Every single title here is about New York. None of this is about London. So you actually see an interesting new phenomenon, and that is it public versus private, or is it London versus New York? And I think the wrong thing is it's not versus anything. Companies should be able to get funded at every part of its journey. So going back to my story from the beginning, if you think of a stock exchange as a convener of capital, where people who have capital want to deploy to those ideas that need capital, we at the London Stock Exchange are not going to do that just in public markets, we'll also do it in private markets. The good news about this is all New York. You can find similar stories about London as well, but the good news about this is that we in London and in the UK are actually doing a lot to address those problems. So we're not just saying, it's everywhere, so we don't care about it. We actually have done a lot of work as an ecosystem to solve these problems. Research provision. There was a Kent review that really is going to reform the way how research provision is done for public markets. We are looking at corporate governance to make sure that it is fit for purpose and that it is not unduly onerous for publicly companies. The biggest reform of listing rules that Minister actually also mentioned in 40 years is currently being enacted. We had a recent review of secondary capital raising. That is really important because once companies are on a public market, they are there for life or for a very long time. In case some of them more than 150 years. We want to make sure that they have ongoing access to capital and that is smooth. So if I just tell you that during financial crisis, during the crisis of 2009, if you add those 2 years in COVID crisis and the financial crisis, something like $500 billion was invested in publicly listed companies through public investors. That is more than that was the package that government put in to save the banks. So this is the real value of public companies. People like to think about it, I'm private, I can do whatever I want. When things get really problematic, public markets will be there to support you. The last thing is that I want to talk about is the risk and pension capital. This is a really interesting also development that we are seeing. There was a massive de-equitization of pension funds in in the UK, pension fund investment in the UK. So at the moment, we look at sort of research and the amount of capital held by pension funds in the UK listed companies and in UK private companies is no more than 5 or 6%, which you compared to, for example, Canada is 15, Australia is 20. This is the investment in their own businesses, in their own country. So we really want to address that and see how can our pensioners benefit from investment in the UK. And don't forget, UK is the biggest producer of unicorns than any other country except China and the US. We need to find a way to support them. We need to find a way to help them scale, which then comes back to my title is how do we support unicorns? How do we know how valuable the unicorns are? So I talked about, even I said at the beginning, I won't talk about public markets too much. We're doing a lot of innovation in private markets as well. First, we have invested in Company Flow. They have a stand there, and they help companies that are in private space raise capital. But we are also doing, developing a concept which is called PISCES, which stands for Private Intermittent Securities and Capital Exchange System. Just rolls off the tongue. Now, we haven't come up with a name for that. It's a regulation, it's a regulatory framework that is being actually designed by the government. We are contributing to that, and we would like to engage with every one of you to contribute to that, because it's a really a great innovation that is supporting companies that are scaling, that need scaling. So we are really good at starting companies. We have solid public markets that we are reforming, but when it comes to that middle piece, when we actually need to get companies to scale up, then that's where sometimes we are not as good as an ecosystem as we should be, and this is one of the way, and the PISCES is one of the ways that we are addressing that. There are 30,000 companies in that space in the UK, contributing to about a third of our GDP. So it is a big task that we are taking. So, so this is that PISCES is the market that sits in the middle between private and public. So what is it? Now, you may have read a paper. I know everyone loves to read government papers. They came out in March, closed in April. It's a policy paper that talks about the establishing of the new regulatory framework. Now, what PISCES is enabling private companies to use public market infrastructure, yet remain private. Now, that's really important. We're not creating a public market ecosystem here for private markets. So what it means? It means that the London Stock Exchange, as an operator, and there may be other operators, will run 12 auctions every year, one each month. In those auctions, companies can then choose which auctions they would like to participate in at the beginning of the year. When they make that choice public in the disclosure portal, alongside of information that is necessary for investors to invest in them. It's not public type information, it's not a prospectus. It is a quantum information that gives investors confidence to invest in these companies. Disclosure portal is not public. It's private. It is guarded by registered auction agents. Registered auction agents are intermediaries. There are private capital markets of banks who will onboard the investors, give them permission, because they will know that they are qualified, that they are professional. This is not for retail, institutional. They will work with the companies to get them onboarded onto that portal. And this is really important. The agency is with the companies. Companies decide, companies disclose information, companies have agency of who comes onto the cap table. So this is not a public market, it's very much a private market that is using our infrastructure. And that's when we come to our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is basically our trading system. So imagine now you have 400 member firms who can potentially trade in these shares, but in a very controlled and safe manner, controlled by the companies. There will be a tailored rule set, so it's not public markets rule set, it's new, supported by ecosystem of advisors. So we are not disintermediating anyone. We are simply giving opportunity for things that are happening at the moment in the market to happen in a more efficient way using immensely scalable, infinitely scalable technology that we have at the London Stock Exchange using the post-trade systems. So take, for example, by the way, you don't have to take photos of this. I can very gladly send you these slides. Neil here, Shah, right there, he's from the London Stock Exchange. Just reach out to him. You can get these slides. You can actually get much more detail than what I have here. I've already run out of time. But so this is in a nutshell. There's much more detail here, and we're very happy to share our thinking. We are very happy to engage. This is being designed, and the plan is that it is going to be launched by the end of this year, according to government ministers, because this is a regulatory system that then operators like ourselves will build markets upon. Anyway. This is what I had to say. I hope this was interesting. I'll stay here. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.